Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sport, and today we are going to be talking about Varsity Cup and how it is saving South African rugby. Yesterday we did a video about the fact that SA Rugby needs a reshuffle, talking about the sort of franchise and the union systems, and looking at the fact that, you know, more teams other than the 4 Rainbow Cup teams need to start being taken more seriously and need to start getting better rugby. And that takes more than just sort of a case of establishing a Vodacom Cup or something like that. We're talking about financial injection. We're talking about how do these sides start to match the top 4 sides. Instead of having a top 4 sides, how do we have have 8 sides who are all competing at a similar level across South Africa? And today I want to look specifically at the Varsity Cup and just how much of a godsend it's been to South African rugby over the past sort of decade and more, in fact, that it's actually been going, because it really is probably my favorite competition in the country. It really is. You know, obviously they've got the Currie Cup and you've got the Rainbow Cup, you've got Pro 14, Super Rugby, but in terms of products, in terms of taking something which was so unique and so, you know, before, you know, previously ignored, to what it has become now, the Varsity Cup has been an exceptional piece of business by Varsity Sports itself. Before we get into exactly what I'm talking about and sort of the Varsity Cup and what Varsity Cup sort of means for SA Rugby, please do smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Rainbow Cup stuff coming up tomorrow. We're going to start having some more team announcements. We've got the Stormers press conference up as well, so go and check that out. We'll have team announcements and stuff like that coming out in the next few days, as well as previews and the likes. So on Monday, the Varsity Cup concluded as Tuks managed to withstand a comeback from UCT, the Ikeys, to clinch the the Varsity Cup title. It was a comeback similar to back in 2014 when a sensational late try from UCT after turning the ball over after extra time against NW saw them clinch the Varsity Cup title. But having sort of started watching Varsity Cup when I was sort of probably, I'd say about 15 years old, in sort of early high school, starting to watch Varsity Cup, but suddenly, you know, for the first time ever, rugby became accessible, you know, in that it wasn't just this sort of Springboks, suddenly these professional players. It wasn't just a case of these players would leave school and all of a sudden they'd blossom on TV in the Currie Cup, you know. Watching Varsity Cup, you could suddenly start to see the idea of a pipeline and a sort of direct path and you know, a career path for these players where they can go school, university, unions, and then Springboks. But I don't think even Varsity Sports itself, who are the masterminds behind the Varsity Cup, I don't even think they themselves could quite believe the impact that the Varsity Cup would go on to have in the Springbok setup. I mean, 13 Rugby World Cup winners came out of the Varsity Cup. Now, that's not to say that they wouldn't have made it if there wasn't a Varsity Cup. It's not to say that without the Varsity Cup, these players wouldn't have ever sort of existed or something like that. But there are definitely certain players who really, really did benefit from the Varsity Cup. And there's definitely certain unions which are really benefiting from the Varsity Cup. And even the Varsity Shield now, you know, as somebody who was able to watch Varsity Shield games in a university which was pretty poorly funded, didn't have much of a rugby program, and suddenly qualifying for Varsity Shield meant that they were playing a high level of rugby every week. It suddenly meant that they could afford to give 1 or 2 bursaries away, and suddenly we could actually have some decent players coming in, and provided a whole new incentive for players to start playing rugby. You know, and we saw how, you know, whilst the Roads still struggle, for example, in the Varsity Shield, there's definitely been a sort of improvement over the years. But if you're looking at the Varsity Cup, over the years, since 2010, when the first Springbok was capped from the Varsity, first Springbok who played Varsity Cup was capped, which was Jean de Jong back in 2010, who played for Marties. There have been 48 Springboks who have played Varsity Cup rugby, and as I said, 13 Rugby World Cup winners. So if we go back to 2019. 13 players in that squad played in the Varsity Cup. I mean, that's an incredible number. And the important thing is that I've always sort of struggled to sort of I don't know how you fix it, but there's been very little sort of under 19, under 21 coverage or excitement in terms of the provincial game. You know, so there's always been this sort of missing middle between school rugby and Currie Cup, and that's where the Varsity Cup has decided, you know what? We've got a player base, we've got a fan base, we've got a product here. And they started to sort of introduce the idea of almost like an American college sports type thing. And it has been incredibly, incredibly successful. And the important thing is I'm not only talking about just, you know, being able to produce good players, but the style of rugby that we are seeing. Varsity Cup is a fantastic tournament to watch because it really is great rugby being played. A lot of times it's very exciting rugby, players throwing the ball around, really giving it a go, playing a very attacking brand of rugby. It's always trying to innovate in terms of law changes, law variations. So whenever maybe SA Rugby are thinking about trying out a new law, it's another competition where they can trial it. But for me, the biggest thing is the fans. We have seen a packed out Donny Craven Stadium. We see it often actually when it comes to the Varsity Cup. Obviously not now during COVID times, but in previous years we've seen packed out, a Donny Craven Stadium. That's 16,000 people for a university game. Whereas sometimes you'll go and play a game at, let's say, in Kimberley, and you won't get 16,000 people to go watch the Greek quiz. So the question is, what has Varsity Cup done to get it right? And that is, they've made it accessible. It's an accessible brand. It's a competition that they've taken to the students. They've gone and said there are all these thousands of university students. How do we get them to come and watch rugby? And and they've made it fast, fun, and just a good time. They were very sort of cognizant of the fact that university life's all about partying and all about having a good time and being social with their friends and stuff like that. And so they worked that into their brand. And as a result, as I said, it was like the thing to do. Monday night rugby. Monday night. Who goes out on a Monday night? Well, people now do because of the Varsity Cup. People would now go watch the Varsity Cup on a Monday night and have a great time. And so we have seen this brand uncover some absolutely incredible players. I like to use the example of Aphiwe Dianti. Obviously, it's a bit of a clouded story at the moment, and there's still no word about what's happening here. But he is someone who, without the Varsity Cup, I don't think we would have seen the World Breakthrough Player of the Year in 2018. I don't think we would have seen it. He was someone who would play third team in high school. We all heard the story. Third team in high school, played a bit of Res League suddenly for UJ, got drafted into the Varsity Cup team, had an absolutely incredible Varsity Cup campaign, then came into the Lions, had a brilliant Super Rugby, then came into the Springboks and just kept taking it a step further, and he won World Breakthrough of the Year. Now that is a direct result of Varsity Cup. If we look at some of the players over the past, let's just look at the past sort of since 2017, the likes of Courtney Skosan, Raymond Roulet, Andries Coetzee, Dylan Lates, Ruan Dreyer, Cohen Bosch, Wilco Logue, Warwick Gelant, Oxen Chair, Jason Jenkins, Ian van Zyl, Travis Ishmael, Akka van der Merwe, Marvin Ori, Rob de Prier, Inbo Sapir, Achia Snyman, Aphiwe Dianti, Spoon Corsi, Marco van Staden, Renan Alstad, Herschel Yankees, Liza Koboka. These are all players who've come out of the Varsity Cup. And for me, I think what SA Rugby need to do is the question that sort of remains is how do SA Rugby capitalize on the Varsity Cup? The Varsity Cup's got a really, really good product. It's modern, it's very well done, it's very professional. Francois Pinault, who sort of leads up the varsity sports, he's doing a brilliant job. The question is, how do we take that step further? How do we make sure the Varsity Cup, which sort of runs usually February to about sort of April, how do we take that and use it as a springboard for our unions? Because if we're looking at the Varsity Cup, we're looking at about 16 sides. So you've got 16 teams. Those are squads of 30. You've got 16 squads of 30 players who are decent rugby players, especially if you're looking at the Varsity Cup squad. Varsity Shield, not all those players will be able to still step it up and play, provincial level or franchise level rugby. But these Varsity Cup sides have some really good players. And that's where I think we need to start looking at them becoming feeders for these unions and actually associating. They are to a certain degree. Obviously, Tux is very well associated with the Bulls. UJ and Wits have had good associations with the Lions, but we've got to try and find a way that we can funnel all the Varsity Cup talent into these other unions. That needs to be our feeding ground. Your under 21 Currie Cup, that needs to be fun. You've got to look at Varsity Cup and try and get these players playing rugby in Varsity Cup. And also it means that all these players are going to university, getting degrees, getting a bit of education done, so that if their rugby career doesn't work out, they've got that second one. So it really is a win-win situation. But I think that the Varsity Cup represents the biggest sort of gold mine that SA Rugby needs to continue tapping into it even more so. Because there are a lot of players that still don't necessarily can go all the way. You look at the Eastern Cape, and there are 4 sides in the Varsity Shield, well, 3 in the Varsity Shield, and the Madivas in Nelson Mandela University in the Varsity Cup. Those 4 sides, the EP Elephants are struggling. There are good. There are players there that can start moving into that EP Elephant side, into a border side. This is as I said, this is the platform that SA Rugby need to use to try and start bringing some excitement into it. And if you've got these players playing for these unions, take these unions to the fans. Stop playing every single EP Rugby game at Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. They were playing at Madiba Stadium for a while, but that's a good thing. Why can't we see a Bulls versus Lions game taking place at UJ or at Wits? Why can't we see a Stormers game taking place at the Darnie Craven Stadium in the Curry Cup? And get these students in, get these people to watching rugby. The attendance at Curry Cup matches have been dropping quite a lot, and yet the Varsity Cup it's almost like it's opposite. As the sort of attendance goes down for these union and franchise games, the attendance continues to go up for Varsity Cup. So, as much as we also need to take these players into these unions, take these unions to the fans, take these unions to the players, find out where these big rugby bases are, and make it accessible. Because I think that's the reason the Varsity Cup has succeeded, because it's relatable, it's accessible. You can go and watch your mate play. You can click on the TV and be like, I'm in lectures with that guy, or I went to school with him, and I get to watch him. So the unions must do an opposite thing. I think, instead of getting 10,000 people at Ellis Park, why can't we get 10,000 people at Darnie Craven Stadium? Why can't we get 10,000 people at some of the stadiums in the Eastern Cape? So, it's an interesting. I'd love to hear what everybody else thinks, but I do think that the Varsity Cup has been a revelation in SA Rugby, and I still think that we are scraping the surface in terms of just how big it can become. We see college weekends overseas, they're massive in the States. We've got to try and reach that level. It's well on its way, and for everybody that's involved in the Varsity Cup, all I can say is congratulations, because this year, even despite it being within a bio-bubble, it was once again a brilliant competition. The production is fantastic. The social media stuff like that. It's a brand I would love to work with. I've known people who work with the Varsity Cup, and they said it's such a great environment. So congratulations to everybody involved in the Varsity Cup. It really is a stunning product. And I'm hoping that SA Rugby starts to work with them more and more to see how we can use the Varsity Cup as the sort of basis, almost the foundation of the rest of SA Rugby, because there's too much talent there to go wasted. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Smash like on the video. Do subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.